Okay, so this is going to be the first of two Iron Man Marvel Legends figures that I'm going to do that I picked up recently. And it's kind of funny because I don't do Marvel Legends all that often. I don't buy that many Marvel Legends. I usually just buy ones that kind of leap out at me. I kind of cherry pick them these days, especially because the price has now gone up on them, and after taxes, it's almost $25. That's a lot to ask for an action figure. But if something's really cool, I'm gonna pick it up. And this one I happened to catch. It was on clearance at Target already, so they had this one for $16, and I couldn't say no to this for $16. So this is Iron Man Tony Stark AI, but to anybody who's my age or older that's a fan of Marvel Comics, you're just going to see this as being a straight up classic Iron Man. I mean, look at that. I already had this figure pretty much because it's basically a remold of the Marvel 80th anniversary Iron Man figure. But what they did differently with this one is, you see, this is more based off of Alex Ross's artwork. So it has a very shiny gold and metallic red sort of look, whereas this one is a little more of a comic booky sort of just regular red and yellow kind of look. And I thought that was really cool. I couldn't really resist it. To me, this pressed all the right nostalgia buttons for flashing back to the old Secret Wars action figures that I had when I was a kid. Where's my X-Acto knife? I don't see my X-Acto knife around here anywhere. So, I guess to open up this figure, I'm going to use my handy dandy razor blade. So, not quite as fancy as the X-Acto knife. Is there more tape at the top and the bottom? Yeah, let's go ahead and get that open at the side. So this was actually part of the wave is the Mr. Hyde Build-A-Figure, and it's actually mostly based on the Shang-Chi movie. So I figure they probably felt justified in dropping Iron Man in here since the villain of Shang-Chi is going to be the Mandarin, or as he's called on this packaging, Wenwu, because that's a way better name, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. The Shang-Chi figures I just wasn't that impressed with. Like, he barely looks anything like he does in the comics, and honestly, I thought those designs were kind of bland. So I wasn't really feeling those too much. And then the other figure is the Civil Warrior, who's I don't know, I think he's from a video game, but I haven't played it. And he's kind of a mashup of Captain America and Iron Man somehow. So, but I haven't played that game, so I don't know exactly what his deal is. So the back of this says, after a tragic battle, Tony Stark lives on as a hologram in the form of a high-powered robotic suit at the helm. I'm sorry, of a high-powered robotic suit of armor. Huh, after a tragic battle. That's a funny way of saying after being put into a coma by Carol Danvers. But oh no, we can't admit that there's anything wrong with that character. She has to be completely perfect. God. I'd like Carol Danvers a lot more as a character if they would just admit that she was an anti-hero or even a villain. She'd be a really cool villain. But whatever. So I'm probably not going to get much use out of this hologram head. This is probably the first good look you're going to get at it, because in the picture, in the package, the background is blue, so his head just kind of wound up becoming invisible. I'm sure you guys were wondering why I was holding up a headless action figure, but no, it does indeed have a head. And I have over here the head that came with the 80th anniversary one, which, because it's Alex Ross artwork, it looks kind of vaguely like Timothy Dalton, who would have been the best guy to play Iron Man if you made the movie in the 80s. But yeah, also looking at this head, it looks kind of familiar in some other way I can't quite put my finger on. It looks like somebody else besides Timothy Dalton. But I can't quite put my finger on it right now. So let's see. We got the leg of Mr. Hyde, which I don't know if I'm going to actually build this figure. The Mr. Hyde looks alright, but I don't know if I'm going to get all those MCU Shang-Chi figures, and I'm Probably not going to get the Civil Warrior, because I don't know who the hell that is. He's got repulsor blasts, so that's cool. We'll demonstrate those in a second. He's got alternate hands to fire the repulsor blasts, and unfortunately, as is often the case with these extra hands on these figures nowadays, there's actually not an articulation there. So if you're going to put the hand on him, it's going to be stuck in this position. You won't be able to lower it down this way or anything like that. So I guess that's some kind of cost-cutting measure. But, dude, after taxes, like I said, these figures are almost $25 now. So I think you can spring the extra 15 cents per figure or whatever it is to go ahead and put that articulation in there. So there's the figure itself. Thankfully, no rubber bands or anything holding that in. Thank you for that, Hasbro. And last but not least, the Iron Man head with the helmet, which looks very much like the artwork of John Romita Jr. and Bob Layton. So this is a very 1980s looking Iron Man. Makes me very happy. So, I wanted to compare these heads, and it's going to be kind of hard for me to do since, one's in metallic plastic. But I was kind of wondering if like, maybe it was based off of the same sculpt. It's not the exact same sculpt because, the hair is different. You can see the hair is a little more sticky uppy. And he's got a goatee, which is sculpted on. It's also got, like, a little bit of paint on there. Like a slightly darker blue translucent paint on the goatee and on the hair. But I don't know if that's coming across on the camera. But they did actually bother to put some extra paint apps on there, so good for them on that. I don't think it's the same face sculpt. I think the face sculpt is slightly different. Like, the nose on this one seems a little straighter and pointier, and this one seems like a little more like a button nose. Like this one looks a little more like Robert Downey Jr., which I guess is to be expected. So, I don't see getting much use out of this hologram head. If anything, I might try to repaint it into a more standard Tony Stark head. Just because, I don't read modern Marvel comics. I don't really care anymore. Ever since they turned Captain America into a Hydra, ever since they did that story, that kind of killed any interest I had in modern Marvel comics. I'll go back and read the old stuff. That's all I really care about. So this head should go right on here, but I'm having a hard time getting it to pop. And it might just be because it's cold in my house right now. And so the plastic's a little stiffer. But ideally, this should just pop right on there. It's just not wanting to. But you could pop this on here and have like a regular Tony Stark head on here. If you have this other figure. But it's not wanting to go. So let's try to put the Iron Man head on there. Because that's the one I'm going to want to really keep on here anyway. Just not wanting to cooperate. But yeah, I've got the AC running. The AC's been running in this house for a while, so it's kind of cold. Everything's cold. I don't really, it's so hot outside. I don't really want to spend any time in my house in the heat. I want the house to be cold. So, but yeah, there he is with the Iron Man head on here. And if you're an old school comic book fan like me, this is what Iron Man looked like in the 80s as I was growing up. And in fact, when I first started reading Iron Man comics, it wasn't even Tony Stark that was Iron Man. James Rhodes had taken over as Iron Man at that point. So he was Iron Man for it was a while. Like, I know it seems like a longer time because I was a kid, so to me it seems like it was just like forever. But I think it was only like a year or two that he was Iron Man, and then Tony came back as Iron Man, and he was wearing the Silver Centurion armor. But this is still, like, to me, pretty classic Iron Man. And my first Iron Man action figure that I ever had was Secret Wars Iron Man. And this, like, when I saw it on the shelf, I was just like, that's like a perfect update of the Secret Wars Iron Man figure. It's almost perfect anyway. If the arc reactor wasn't blue, And if the arc reactor was red, and if these little things were unpainted, the little energy transponder things, the things he plugs into the wall when he wants to recharge his armor, or at least that was what it was in the Silver Age. It would be perfect. As it is, it's like 99%. I'm pretty happy with it. So let's go ahead and get the hands out of here. I'm gonna put the repulsor hands in there. I'll just do one for now. And I picked the wrong one, of course. It'd help if I put his right hand in his right arm, wouldn't it? And as you can see, there's a little hole in here, which, it makes sense just as far as the repulsor beam goes. It works as a repulsor beam. But if you want to put these actual repulsor blasts in there, there we go. That makes for a pretty cool effect. And I like these better, actually, than the one that came with the 80th anniversary one, because those were actually kind of... they weren't translucent like this. They were just solid yellow, so it looked kind of odd. But, these are clear blue, and they look much better. So which figure is better? I mean, honestly, it's going to depend a lot on your own personal preferences. Me, I'm glad I had both. But I do think it's kind of funny that when I was a kid and I had the Secret Wars Iron Man, I thought it would have been really cool if they'd have made another one where he had, like, a metallic red and gold armor instead of just the plain, flat yellow and red. But then as an adult, I already had this one, and when I saw the plain, flat yellow and red version, I still had to have it because it reminded me of the old action figure. So that's kind of a funny thing. So, do I recommend this one? Yeah, I do. Especially if you can find it on clearance like I did. But if you don't already have if you already have this figure, you pretty much already have this figure. So it's going to depend a lot on if you're willing to double dip just to have a color variant. It might or might not be worth it for you, depending on what. It does have the hologram head, so if you're a fan of the modern comics, that's something that, might be useful to you, but it's not really useful to me. So, in fact, I'm going to go and take off the other hand and replace it with the repulsor hand. So, there we go. And now he can be, like, just blasting out of both hands. So, or if you want it to be kind of how they did it in the movie, you can tilt the arms down this way, and he can be using those to direct his flight. Which, unfortunately, he doesn't have them for his boots, but that still looks pretty cool, just like that. If you had one of those fancy NECA stands, you could pose them like this, and that would look pretty cool. So, but anyway, yeah, so that's the AI Tony Stark figure, or as I like to call him, Classic Iron Man. Pretty cool figure, pretty glad to have it. And I'm going to have another Iron Man video coming up soon, so keep an eye out for that. Alright, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, down below you can like and subscribe and all that other fun YouTube stuff. And we'll see you next time. Bye.